so uncivilized.
All right. I think it's socially acceptable to clap for ourselves. Why not?
Ain't no one else here to do it for us, at least like in person. So yeah,
I am indeed bad.
Why not?
Throw some hands clapping in the chat if you're here live.
Oh my goodness! Look at this. We have some people in the chat too. That's awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. My name is Anthony from Fever Dreamland Theater. I am here with Berger Rokar. I am here with Jonathan from Man of Movies. Say what's up, guys.
What's up, guys?
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I am so excited to be here with you guys. So excited to talk Star Wars. It's been a hot minute.
It has been a hot minute, but like,
Indeed.
I feel like whenever we get together, though, that only makes it all the more special, right? And in this case, it's a very special episode. It's sort of like, this is Cinema Squad coming together for Rule of Three. It's sort of our first episode of this whole rebranding thing that we got going. I want to quickly acknowledge the chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Just to scan over real quick, we have Upside Dan is here, of course. That's our partner. Thank you so much, Dan, for coming through. Eric Thorpe is here. View with Drew is here. Popping the popcorn. Katie is here. And I'm sure other people are going to join us along the way. And I'm sure other people are going to be checking us out on replay. So I want to just say thank you for that ahead of time. This is going to be some spoiler talk, guys. We're talking Ahsoka. I can't believe it. We're talking some new Star Wars. I'll shut up. I promise. I'll shut up. But like, I just want to say one thing. This is awesome. Thank you. This is fucking awesome. I'm just happy to be here. I'm nerding out. Now, one other thing I'll say before I kind of turn it over to you guys a little bit is we haven't talked. So I have no clue how these guys. I have no idea how Jace or Jonathan feels about the new show Ahsoka. So this is going to be a surprise. My fingers are crossed that maybe one of them hated it. This way we can get into like a nice nasty conflict and get all of the hits and get all of the views and get all of the likes and shares and all of that good stuff from YouTube. That's what YouTube's about, right? I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, baby Grogu's going to get rocked.
So, all right, let's just like dive right into it. I mean, I wanted to at least ask one thing, and I guess I'll start with you, Jace, if that's okay. So we've had a lot of Disney Plus series now, like a surprising amount. We've had like Andor, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and of course Mandalorian. Now we've had this premiere. I guess you're going to show your hand a little bit. Well, I guess you're going to show your hand a little bit with how you feel about this. Where does this one rank up? The Ahsoka premiere. Where does this one rank for you? How well do you think it compares to all of the other premieres?
If we're talking direct comparison of premieres,
at least just premieres, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this had a really, really, at least I thought, like a strong start. Perfect? No. I always feel like it's funny that everyone feels the need to say that, though. So I'm being hypocritical here since I just said it, but nothing's ever perfect, right? But it was a damn good premiere, man. It was a nice opening. Now sometimes it's tough because I guess if we're trying to compare it as a 2-episode premiere, not every show has had a 2-episode premiere. So that, I guess, makes it a little bit tougher of a comparison, but it's one of the stronger ones for sure. I think maybe The Mandalorian's first episode was something that was very captivating, but even then, I think I'm a little bit more biased towards this particular premiere simply due to the fact that I am an enormous fan of the Rebel series, and to see just basically Rebel Season 5, but with real people, and a slight more focus on Ahsoka is pretty damn dope. So yeah, I mean, it's ranking high up there for me. I do have some complaints, things that I think are fair to kind of point out and acknowledge, but way more positive than not on it. That is for sure.
All right, cool, good to hear. And I'm remembering now that we had a talk one time, and you were saying how much of a Rebels fan you are. So this must be kind of surreal to like see this like in action now.
Bro, I freaked when I saw Chopper in live action. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was in the trailer and all that type of stuff. But when it was just really like a full scene of him, it was, if you watch Rebels and any scene of Chopper and then you watch that, it's easier, I feel like, to do this with droids than it is with, human-esque characters. But, man, it was on point. It was exactly what I would have hoped for a scene with Chopper.
He's a little maniac. I love him. You have to love him.
He's got such an attitude.
Yes, this is-
You guys are
Jonathan,
being a little too nice about Chopper. He's a homicidal maniac, is what he is. He
And
has the
he's the
highest kill count in the Star Wars universe.
is there a kill count going at this? But if there isn't, there should be. Uh, Jonathan, for you, how did this one compare to like the other premieres at least? Just before we dive, and ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching, we're going to be talking about episode 1 and 2. But I just wanted to start things off. I was just curious how you guys think this ranks with the other premieres.
Absolutely, yeah. Give me some time to think while Jace gave his answer, and I gotta say that I agree that I think season 1 of Mandalorian still had the best 2 episodes, first 2 episodes. While I did very much like this one, though, I thought it really was a great reintroduction to fans of Rebels. As I'm watching with my wife, she hasn't seen one episode of Rebels. I was telling her this show is called Ahsoka, but this is not an Ahsoka series. Let's get it straight. This is Rebels season 5. And early on, we get this is just Rebels season 5 disguised under an Ahsoka banner. And I've got to say, there's something that YouTube reviewer Chris Duckman says that I got to agree with. I'm a fan, so service me. And they serviced me. They serviced me big time. And so, yeah, we'll get into and dissect episodes 1 and 2, what worked, what didn't work, and whatever we're mixed on. But when it comes as a pure fan of this specific storyline within the Star Wars universe, I was gushing. I was gushing. And Chopper, yeah, I can't listen. There he is. He's right here. I have to put him. Chopper. He's the best thing about Star Wars.
Look at him picking Grogu's ear right now. that little sheesh.
Yeah, you're right. He has a little personality of his own. Hey, look at that. In the chat, we have Shawn.
We got Shawn in the chat.
Shawn willing to listen to Star Wars stuff?
Wow. Yes, Rule of 3.
We might be in that other galaxy. We'll get into it.
Shawn, the power of 3, or as we say here in the Bronx, the power tree.
Tree fitty. The power of tree fitty.
Guys, on that note about the difference between like John, would you consider your wife more like a casual fan or like we're obviously hardcore fans because here we are, after work and kids and tours and things, and we're talking about Star Wars at 8:00 at night. We're fucking maniacs. So we're obviously like more like hardcore fans, right? But like, what do you guys think about like this premiere as it relates to like? Do you think it plays for both fan bases, like the casuals and the diehards?
I'll take this one real quick. So my wife is definitely more of a casual fan. I forced her to watch everything Star Wars, and she's actually come out as a fan of Star Wars. Not a hardcore fan, but definitely a casual fan. There are certain things she just won't watch because it doesn't interest her, and it has to do a lot with animation. Like Bad Batch doesn't interest her, and when I got into Rebels about 2 years ago, didn't really interest her, so she didn't go into it. That being said, as much as I love it as a fan, I don't think it's safe for a non-fan because my wife is watching going, I don't understand who these people are. Am I supposed to know these people? And I said, yes, you're supposed to know these people because you were supposed to watch this with me a couple years ago. But her, her critique is more is like they're going about it like I'm supposed to know these people already. And I'm like, maybe it's a good thing I'm here then.
Yeah. But that does bring up a good point, right? Like that this may not be as accessible for casual people. I mean, I guess you could say that about all things. It helps if you're a bit of a diehard Star Wars fan. It helps in this case if you're a Rebels fan, big time, and Clone Wars would also be a big help.
Yeah, but I feel like it's something that if you take that part away of it, yes, there is the advantage to getting more invested if you do know that back history to it and everything. But isn't it nice though that even if you don't know what's going on, that you feel like, well, okay, so this is introducing it to me like I'm supposed to know these people? Well, yeah, because the world feels very lived in. Like the characters are already, they have very much like their own set characteristics that when you take a step back and you forget about the fact that there is some other shows and media that happens to showcase some of these characteristics, all right, whatever, any new show, any new movie does the same thing. Right. So just, I mean, look at it like as the same clean slate as anything else. It's just, if it's new characters to you, great. Accept it as is and kind of ride with it and know that you'll get to know these characters literally just like any other time you've started watching a new show. And the best part is you have an extra advantage to go back and do some homework if you so choose to be able to kind of get to know these characters more on a different platform, right? Because it's animated as far as the show. But I feel like it's one of those, it's tough to say it would be more difficult because, again, think of any time that you're freshly introduced to anything. It's the same thing. I can't say I've ever watched a new show and been like, they're introducing this like we don't know who these people are or something. You know, I guess sometimes it's in your face like, hi, everybody, my name's blank, and this is the show that does blank.
Yeah.
But you don't need that all the time. You will find out who these people are. You will come to learn and appreciate the relationships at hand if you stick with it. That's, you know, what can you expect, I guess, from the first episode or so?
No, absolutely, right? Just the first 2 episodes. We got so many more episodes. Everything in hindsight is 2020, right? So but I still have to say that it was a little humorous on my end, watching my wife just going like, wait, who's Ezra? What am I supposed to know Ezra? And then right after that, it's like, there are witches in Star Wars? And I'm like, yeah, they're kind of introducing the Clone Wars, and then there's another galaxy, and it's almost like her head's exploding, like the meme of the woman that has the math equations floating around her head.
Hey, well, the new galaxy is new to everybody.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
And that's actually cool. You know, at least we're all like on that. You know, that we're all on the same page in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. We should just, I guess, like, should we quickly run through the chat? I guess I already acknowledged a lot of people here, but do we have any quick questions before we just dive right into? Let's see. We have Eric. Before we dive into episode 1, which is what we're going to be doing in a second. Let's see.
Oh wow.
We have some general questions from Drew. Do you think Darth Vader? I just wanted to touch on this real quick. Do you think Darth Vader is the best movie villain of all time? Maybe
up there.
He's definitely up there. I mean, for me, I always like default to Palpatine if we're just talking Star Wars. I feel like I remember a really awesome live stream where Jonathan, you mentioned Michael Corleone.
Yeah, I love.
Am I like drunk or is
no? That was
that was real. That was a real thing. Okay,
it was a real thing, Anthony.
No institution for me today.
I'm not completely insane.
And so guys, please in the chat, please feel free to keep talk amongst yourselves, and we'll be sure to hit you up if anything pops up along the way.
Something that Shawn just said, maybe we can touch on.
Yeah, please.
That he's heard Rosario Dawson is phoning it in so far in the series. So what are our thoughts on that? Wow.
Which one?
I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard that either. I disagree. I'm not feeling that. I mean, if you're not a fan of our character, I can see that, but I'm not.
This is where I'm at right now. I am totally relying on hindsight. That's going to be me for the rest of this stream, is relying on hindsight. I think this is character work, not really a lack of performance on Rosario Dawson's work. Does that make sense? Like, her character is meant to be like this as of these first 2 episodes.
Yep.
And we got to remember, dude, she's not that 14-year-old spunky Padawan from the Clone Wars. She's a lot different now, and she's been through a lot of things that we haven't even seen yet, like the whole Sabine relationship, which even to me, a hardcore fan, I'm a little confused as to like, what is this? Right? Yeah. Hindsight. That's all I'm claiming. Hindsight.
No, 100%. And honestly, if you see, again, I know this is immediately saying like, well, if you've seen the show, you would understand. I don't mean for it to be that type of comment, but if you see Ahsoka's appearances in Rebels, she does. She's very much more the way that Rosario Dawson is performing here. It's much more along the lines of that. I will make one comment, and this is actually one of my only like very small critiques. I love her as this character, so I just want to kind of like preface with that. However, there are times, especially given the fact that it was 2 full episodes of this exact kind of cadence, where she's almost too stoic. Like there's just like in ways it fits because it's like, I agree completely. Actually, there's times where she really is. Ahsoka's very reserved like that, especially when she's older. So I mean, that makes sense. But every now and then it's kind of like there's like a lack of like just there's little to no emotion when you'd expect there to be kind of something, it's almost all one note. And I think that's the only reason where I could see somebody believes she's phoning it in. Now, once again, I don't think that's the case. I think it's very much like John was saying, character driven decisions that are making her act like that. But at the same time, I wish there was kind of just a little bit more like flux in there, don't be afraid to do more than just do. I know she's good at the little grin.
There we go. I was gonna say,
I noticed the grin.
There's that famous promotional picture for this series of like her kind of like doing that little smirk and head tilt, and that's it for these 2 episodes, right?
Yeah. A lot of the criticisms of the prequels were that the Jedi were a little dry, that they were a little stale, that they were a little stoic. And I think we're getting that a little bit here. And it's like, is that a surprise? I mean, we kind of should have seen that coming. We've seen her already in Mandalorian, and she wasn't the bubbly teenage version of herself. So this really, I mean, it's consistent. Like Jace already mentioned, it's even consistent with her depiction as an older version of her character in Rebels. So I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. That's too bad if people are feeling that. But again, it's also a little early in the show, right? To be
I think so.
John, like you said too, she has a lot of baggage that we haven't even explored fully yet.
Well, and that could easily be the excuse if you want to use like a story element to give reasoning to this, and if she's really doing character driven decisions here. That could be all that baggage is partially a reason as to why she's so like reserved and closed off at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, but what does she have a need to be so open and kind of like wear her heart on her sleeve, I guess, if you will say, at this point in time, if she's gone through what she has, although we don't know exactly what she's gone through, but it seems like it's been some stuff.
It seems like it has been some stuff. On that note, I guess we should say getting more specifically into like episode 1. I guess we'll do episode 1 first, and then we'll do episode 2. However,
let's do episode 2 first.
Episode 2 first it is. How about episode 3? It hasn't even come out yet.
Episode 3, baby.
Yeah, but now we already like saw it and stuff because we know Rosario like that.
Yeah, no doubt, yo.
She Puerto Rican, so
we have a few of them here in the Bronx.
So John's got that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You have a lot.
Part 1, Master and Apprentice, written and directed by Dave Filoni, the guy with the hat. I like Dave Filoni. He's a good guy. Balin Skull. I'm gonna do from Wikipedia. I apologize.
No, you're good, brother.
This is just a really quick summary so that we sort of like a bit of a quick refresher. Let's see. Balin Skull, a former Jedi, now working as a mercenary, and his apprentice Shin Hati. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Assault a New Republic cruiser carrying Lady Morgan Elsbeth, who had previously been captured by Ahsoka. We remember that on Mandalorian. Let's see. The pair rescue Lady Elsbeth, who informs Skull that Ahsoka is searching for Thrawn. Ahsoka and Hayana obtain a star map to the location of Grand Admiral Thrawn and potentially Ezra Bridger, being informed of Lady Elsbeth's escape. Regrouping with the fleet, Ahsoka meets with General Syndulla, who is back. I'm sure we're familiar with her from Rebels. Those of you watching from who are fans of that series as well. Let's see. Hayang reveals that the star map is still locked. Syndulla advises Ahsoka to obtain Sabine Wren's help unlocking the map. And then just as Wren unlocks the map, she's confronted by Shin, who steals the map and stabs Wren during a duel, which I have a lot to say about.
Same.
So that's a quick refresh, for those of you who haven't seen it, or maybe saw it like a few days ago when it premiered. So I think my only issue with this, I like the first episode overall. The pacing was a little bit on the slow side, but not like a deal breaker per se. And then there's that ending. I almost feel like the lightsaber thing I have a lot to say about. Jace, I'll jump to you. What were your thoughts about this first episode, the villains, anything that immediately pops into mind?
Yeah.
First episode.
The opening crawl, I thought was like real. That was just so cool to like see something like that back in Star Wars, because it's I know it's very dedicated to like the Skywalker movies, and it seems like anytime it's not a Skywalker movie, they're hesitant to do that. But I like how they did their own version of it.
Yeah.
Bro, the opening sequence I thought was dope.
Very Indiana Jones, right?
I literally loved just almost everything about that first opening scene. I love how it's like, oh, it's saying the ship is Jedi, and the guy's like, bullshit, right? And then just going ahead and as far as like having them come in, make that epic entrance. I love how Balin had like his little like Darth Vader-esque hallway scene, going just nuts on the troops in there and stuff. That whole opening was great. And past that point, once it kind of exceeded that, I do agree that it's one of those where the pacing is probably one of my only issues. Things felt very meticulously slow. Sometimes it made sense and I had no issue with it. And then other times it was like, what are you doing? For example, I cannot help but point this out because I remember it so distinctly, I didn't even have to take a note on it. When Sabine was unlocking the key to the map.
Yes,
dude,
brother.
I felt like I was like playing a video game, but like more so like imagine you're doing some stuff in a video game and you can't speed up the controls because
it's like you're the one solving the puzzle, so it's taking you the 5 whole minutes to solve the puzzle, right?
Yeah. It was just, and it was weird actually that it was like, why isn't this even being like intercut with maybe some of her reactions or something? You know what I mean? Like focusing and or trying to get it down or something like that. No, it was just like a still shot for an awkwardly long time on her hands, just taking way too long with that thing. It was just like, what is happening now? So with that being said, again, just leading into the pacing being a little odd. But then otherwise, right, I still had a good time through and through. I thought it was really cool to see just the almost like reintroduction to these characters, if you will. And then I also, when it comes to the end, though I thought the action all throughout, including the end, was very well executed. And it was great to see a lightsaber duel. It always is. I swear, man, if one more person gets stabbed by a lightsaber and survives, I'm going to lose my stuff.
Poor Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yeah.
Right. Now, here's one thing I could try and say. One tiny little instance of benefit of the doubt. Ahsoka and I think it's Hui Yang is the droid. Hui Yang.
I'm sure
my God, I'm butchering it. I don't know. Hui Yang.
He's voiced by probably one of your guys.
He's voiced by David Tennant.
You're a Doctor Who guy, so there we go. Yeah,
bro, I love David Tennant, so I feel even worse that I can't.
I love that character too. On that note,
character's dope. He's been in Clone Wars, so even worse that I don't know how to say it. But anyway, point is, they were right there when she got stabbed. Like the moment it happened, the ship pulled up, and in my only guess or speculation is that since he seems to be a droid that could help out with that stuff, or maybe on the ship itself, they got the things to help out. Okay, I guess you got the medical equipment to instantaneously try and assist her. But I still don't really like it. I mean, I didn't want her to die. I would have been even more pissed, honestly, if Sabine died. But nonetheless, you didn't have to do that. I heard somebody mention this that I thought was a really good idea. Instead of having her be stabbed, which is kind of like overly dramatic, and now you're underselling what a lightsaber can do and how harmful it is, why not do something that's like, have her hand cut off? Because that's such a Star Wars thing. You know what I mean? And at the same time, but that's also really severe. Like, that's not just, that's not a big deal. It's your hand. You know what I mean? So I don't know why they couldn't have gone like that route to have her still be like severely traumatized due to an injury that is shocking, like losing a limb, but then still being able to move forward. And it's much more realistic. Like, again, if someone gets stabbed by a lightsaber, you're dead.
Yeah.
How you not dead?
Yeah. I mean, the original trilogy showed us this. The prequel trilogy showed us this. And modern Star Wars, it started in, I think, Obi-Wan, right? Where we've had an Inquisitor who just brushed it off. We've had, who's your favorite character again, Jace? I'm sorry. Reva. She gets stabbed by Obi-Wan in the middle of the friggin' purge. Yeah. And then years later, she gets stabbed, presumably through the same
As a child.
Again.
As a child.
Through the same hole.
And she survives. And now here we have another character.
Speak of glory hole.
Yeah, and I was
Everyone
and I was originally
survives.
going to get to that at the end, but yeah, let's just dive into it because that was one of my biggest gripe in it. The one thing I'll say is I think maybe for casual fans, that moment probably played a lot better. Like, oh my God, did they just kill off this character?
Oh,
Maybe forget
yeah,
like you
probably.
mentioned your wife, like, oh, is she dead? I mean, but for us, it's just like, oh God. I mean, we know she has the plot armor, and now we just like you're just bringing me into the second episode, and I know she's gonna get over it. I've seen the trailers. I've seen it with the short hair. I know that the story goes on from here. Why are you doing this? Jace brought up a good point. Yeah, just chop her arm off or chop off a body part. That's
Just chop her hair off. She does it anyway.
hey, there you go. That would have sort of
Well, but something that still causes like like a repercussion. You know what I mean? Like it's still something to deal with, but not like, oh my God, it seemed like she died. Oh wait, no, never mind, she's not dead. Like you can't.
I gotta say, as a fan of the prequels, the opening of this episode really reminded me of the opening of Phantom Menace. I mean, to the point when Balin and what's her name again? His Padawan of sorts.
Okay, it's a new show. Bear with us, folks.
Yeah, for sure. New show, new characters.
Yeah, that's the biggest. The new characters.
Shin.
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 Yeah.
Shin. Okay.
Dude, they're almost like the anti Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in that scene, getting off the ship, going into right, and it almost gave me the same vibes. And I think even aside from that opening sequence, Balin and Shin give me anti Qui-Gon Obi-Wan vibes. Balin is this character that seems through that he is very much an honorable dark side user. That's why I say anti.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Qui-Gon
comparison.
was for the light side, Balin is for the dark side, and yet they all agree like there is honor within our enemies, there is honor within the Force, right? And I see Balin growing into that type of character. That sure, he is sinister in the sense that he is against our protagonist, but just like Qui-Gon may have been like seen as a bad guy to some of the Jedi Council, maybe Balin is seen as a good guy to some of these characters that we love. Going into, I want to jump to the end real quick. Is I gotta agree with you guys. I love the action, but two things here. One, I won't repeat it. Why did another stabbing? I don't understand. For me, it just makes Qui-Gon's death so stupid. Poor Qui-Gon. I feel so bad for him. Good thing that the Medicare has really advanced after all these years in the Star Wars universe that you could save somebody so quickly now. But another thing is Shin got the orb and decided to stay and fight.
We're also doing another map, a map to the Thing story, which is
absolutely like the droids
story, with the map to Luke to the Thing. This is more of a map, to the area where Thrawn and Ezra are. So it's not
exactly.
Map, but it's still a map to the Thing story.
But
whatever, not a big complaint, but we have seen it before.
Her goal is to get the orb, bring it back to Morgan. She gets the orb. Sabine is late to the game when she goes down that elevator, and there Shin is waiting for her. I don't understand the logic behind that in universe. If this is your mission, if it was me, I would have left immediately. The moment Sabine Wren gets to the bottom, I would have been long gone. What is the point?
So to kind of go back to your comparison of like the Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but dark side versions, if you will, I think that actually kind of plays right into what you'd mentioned. So if it were to be Balin, I think he'd just get the heck out of there because he knows I've done what I need to do. I have no other purpose for being here.
Okay.
So let me go back. But I think she, being the young Padawan who is, desperate to impress, if you will, right? And make a name for herself. Yeah. Right. So how better would it be to not just simply get the orb, but then also to say I've also killed Sabine?
I truly hope that is what they go into going into the later episodes, because if they don't, then it's just going to seem like a bad part of the script, a bad example of writing within that first episode.
Yeah, it's definitely speculation on my end, but it seems to be pretty logical because, again, like especially drawing to your comparison, and maybe it's just because I like your comparison, but Obi-Wan also, right, when being a Padawan, being overly ambitious, most Padawans being overly ambitious, I could see maybe that kind of playing into the decision making there because otherwise, yeah, it's utterly pointless other than for dramatic flair.
Yeah,
there was a little bit of predictability. I'm sorry, John. There was a little bit of predictability. I'll just say real quick. When Sabine is left alone, like she makes it clear, like, oh, let me just take this and I'm gonna go off and I'm gonna kind of like be alone and you know, and Ahsoka's like, no, and she then leaves her alone with it.
It's like leaving a plate of meatloaf in front of a hungry dog and just leaving the room, expecting him not to eat it.
It felt very predictable that, like, I'm just looking at my watch. I don't have a watch, but you get the point. Where it's just like when you know she goes back to that room, Sabine is gonna be gone. You just know it's, and then sure enough, Sabine is gone. And that leads us into the beats there are a little bit predictable, not the worst in the world. But John, what were you gonna say?
No, I just wanted to touch on my guys. We got fan favorite characters in live action. Like, let's talk about this for a second. Let's gush over this for a second. All right, guys, we got Hera, we got Sabine Wren, we got Ryder, my guy Ryder. What's his name? Azadi.
Yes.
Right. Clancy Brown's character.
Brown, yes.
Oh yeah.
And we have Mary. Is it Mary Elizabeth Winstead as
Hera?
Hera. Thank you. Yeah, and everybody's killing it so far. So good for the first 2 episodes.
And we got a beautiful looking Lothal.
Yes.
Oh, the Loth cats, bro. The Loth cats are so cute.
I know. I love it. A lot better than remember the first season of Mandalorian. We got a full CGI Loth cat in one of the bars that Mando goes into. It's one of the first episodes. So I love that they kind of strayed away from complete CGI, and it's a mix of sort of a practical and CGI. It almost at times looks stop motion-y. I feel like Anthony would appreciate that.
Yeah, some stop motion action. I thought the cat looked great. It was like Jay said, it's very, very, very cute. And overall, I actually love the visuals of this. I know we did a little dumping on the episode, but yeah, just to give some positives, it looked wonderful. I was a little worried like that maybe I feel bad Obi-Wan got like the short end of the stick, right? Where this, in terms of visuals, it just didn't hold up as well. This episode, I know they used the volume, but I don't know. It feels like they did a much better job. It looked awesome to me. I have no complaints.
Yeah, I think because it didn't feel as contained. I think one of the things with the Obi-Wan show is that anytime they were anywhere, you never felt like it was a vast world that you were in. You like felt like they were on a small green screen, and they just didn't have much to work with. Whereas this, again, they do a great job of showcasing the landscape of the world that they're in, and I think Lothal looks really, really well done. It is incredible to see these characters in live action. It is also very weird, just strictly because when you become, I imagine this has to be what it's like when people read a book and get used to a character, but then see an adaptation of said book and have to adjust to a different version of the character than what's in their head. So the difference being, we've seen a version of this character. So, like, for example, when I was watching Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, I thought she did great. But for like the first however few scenes, all I could focus on was just like, do you sound like Hera? Are you moving like Hera? Like, I was kind of almost over analyzing it. The same thing with Sabine.
Not my Hera.
I mean, even when Ahsoka showed up in Mandalorian, I had that vibe a little for the first few seconds, and then I was like, okay, no, that's her Ahsoka. Okay, I will accept.
And it's one of those where, of course, there's always going to be differences. You can't get around that and everything. But at the same, I really give them a bunch of credit because the performances are definitely something that I'm appreciating. At least just because they are true to what I would expect them to be as those characters. And that's really nice. It makes me that much more excited for when we do see more of Ezra. It makes me that much more excited for when Thrawn comes around, and so on and so forth. And please, for the love of everything, give us some Chopper in every episode.
Every single episode. I have a question for you guys. Maybe I'll answer it first, but I want to put it out there. Thoughts on Sabine Wren's reintroduction as she's kind of speed biking out of Lothal, listening to in-universe rock music, right? My thoughts was I was okay with it. I was not against it whatsoever. I thought it was a good way to kind of show the edgy, angsty person that is Sabine Wren.
Yeah.
That's who she is.
Yeah.
But I want to answer first because my wife does not like Sabine Wren.
Wow.
And that was her first introduction to her. And throughout the first 2 episodes, she's like, I don't like this character. I don't think I'm going to root for her.
Wow.
She is unknowing. She is insufferable, is what she says. Yeah.
You know something was I'm kind of liking Sabine, sort of my number one character right now, even over Ahsoka a little bit. I'm actually like, I don't know if that's a hot take or whatever, blah blah blah, but like I'm kind of digging Sabine, maybe because there's more personality there. And again, that's not a slight. I don't mean on Rosario Dawson. I think Rosario Dawson is doing fine here. I think she's doing her thing, and again, we'll see where that goes. But I like the whole chicken. Oh, she's playing chicken and she ends up, speeding past. That was all pretty good. It felt in the spirit of like vintage 1970s George Lucas too, the whole racing car aspect of it. I liked all of that. And it felt a little rare. This isn't a good thing necessarily, but it felt a little reminiscent of those punk rockers that we saw in Book of Boba Fett.
No, Anthony.
Oh, no.
But it still worked for me. Again, I'm liking her character. I'm liking the actor. Sorry. However we're saying that now.
Yeah, actress is fine, man.
Anthony.
Actress is fine.
Canceled. Jace, what are your thoughts? I'll just sit here.
So yeah, I'll put it this way. I actually this is I think this is pretty critical because it was the first introduction to this character for many people. So like exactly, John, how you're bringing up for your wife, the fact that this is the first time getting introduced to her. It would have been better if they didn't do this. As much as I didn't mind it, because as we're all saying, I am familiar with Sabine, therefore it doesn't surprise me to see that type of behavior from her.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to reintroduce them to a larger audience, I think it would have been smarter to not show that scene at all. And simply acknowledge that she's missing the ceremony, cut straight to her in her little place, having that emotional moment, watching the message from Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
So this way, the first thing that you get is you're connecting to her on more of an emotional beat, right? As to where you kind of are feeling for where she's coming from and her situation, potentially. Where then you can kind of build up her rambunctious behavior and appreciate it later on as it grows, because you also have already kind of built that little bit of rapport with them, if you will. So I think, again, I didn't mind it, but I don't think it was smart to have that there then. I think to maybe show something like that later on, sure, but it should have been cut straight to her in the place
Jace,
watching the message from Ezra.
Okay, but Jace, then we wouldn't have that banger in-universe rock music.
I know. Sadly, I know this may crazy, maybe crazy, the hot take here, but I'd be willing to sacrifice that amazing in-universe rock.
I am being facetious. I
oh gosh, I know.
I agree. I agree with you.
And I guess one other thing too. I guess before we just move on to episode 2. Ray Stevenson, I'm a big fan of this guy. Rest in peace. I wish he was still around because he's kicking ass in this show within the first 2 episodes. And I, as much as I love Darth Vader, who we mentioned earlier here, and Palpatine, Star Wars needs new villains. That's why I'm so hyped for Thrawn coming. But Ray Stevenson is such a welcome presence. What were your thoughts before we move on his character and his apprentice?
Brother, he's my favorite character in the series. I know you said Sabine over Ahsoka. I don't think it's a hot take because I have another character over Ahsoka as well, and that is Baylan Skoll, my guy.
Oh, okay.
I truly am buying into his Qui-Gon vibes. That is what I am loving. I don't know what he's about. All I can do is theorize and speculate, and I just have the best speculations for his character and what he's going to want to be doing, man. I don't know about you guys, but I have this feeling that Baylan, being this person that has his own ideologies, he might want to create an anti-Jedi order, not a Sith order. Remember, the Sith is a rule of 2. No, an academy, an order where we can have a whole bunch of dark side users that aren't just regulated to 2. And the moment those 2 die, that's it. That's it for that order. No, I want to make something as vast as big, as influential as the Jedi Order that I was once a part of that failed me,
Yeah.
and make it into my ideology that has prospered me. What do you guys think?
That sounds awesome. I really hope that's where they go with this again. And now
if they know, I'm gonna hate this series.
man, and you just killed it for me if they don't go that direction. Thanks a lot for ruining it. No, Jace, your thoughts on would you even say it's like would you put him in like an anti-hero?
Yeah, I would
There's
say
a lot of nuance with this character, right? I said villain, but I mean we're already getting shades of him. You know, like if his character goes straight good guy, I don't think I would be surprised. You know,
yeah, I'd be shocked if that would happen, but I know what you mean,
Yeah.
right? It wouldn't be like the most surprising thing. First and foremost, I agree with John. He's also my favorite character currently. I think that dude is such a badass, and I applaud the phenomenal performance that has been put in already, and I'm super much looking forward to whatever that results into later on.
Yeah.
I think that he is probably the closest thing. I don't know if I'd again call it an anti-hero per se, but I would, and it's only because I know it's getting
villain.
yeah, right. It's like exactly because he's villainous. I mean, it's somewhere in the middle. This is what I would say though. It's really interesting because I remember that you know, a lot of people like the concept of a gray Jedi, but that it's never been introduced into canon. And I know that's not what they're referring to this as, but let's just be honest and call it like it is. This is basically he's a gray Jedi because I would not call him full-blown Sith at all. Maybe he's tapping into dark side stuff. You know, you could argue that because of like the choking, but to be fair, Luke does that too. So
it's true.
But
you know what I mean?
He kills people though, right?
No,
In that
I
opening
know.
sequence, right?
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
very dark right now, for sure.
But here's the thing. But so do gray Jedi. So a gray Jedi does not see only light or only dark. They see a balance of force, and they understand that to create that balance, there must be presence of both sides of the force. So they do kill people, but only usually with like more of a righteous-ish cause, if you will. So it's one of he even shows a brief sign of this because like when they acknowledge, forgive me, I think it's episode 2. So jumping ahead a little bit, but he acknowledges when like they say, "Oh, we'd have to kill Ahsoka," and he goes, "Well, that would be a great shame because there are only so few Jedi left." Like you know what I mean? He's clearly not like I'm trying to continue what the Empire and Darth Vader did. But he's also, I'm not a good guy either, and I'm not trying to recreate the Jedi Order. So I do see maybe there could be some type of order or something that he'd be putting together. But again, it's very much of everything but in name of gray Jedi because he's seeming to see that you need light and dark to have balance.
I think that's where Ahsoka comes in to kind of juxtapose him because Ahsoka, some people call her a gray Jedi, and she's a lot more light side than he is.
Oh, big time! Yeah. No, I mean, she just basically turned her back on a Jedi on the Jedi Order, but she never went dark side at all. Lady Elsbeth was also one other. That's a more clear villain. What were your guys' thoughts? Because and I think she's been elevated definitely now since the Mandalorian. So she has witch powers. She's taken captive. No, she's the last. Is she the last witch? Is that where I'm a little fuzzy on this character?
I don't know if that was said.
Yeah, I know she mentions that the Night Sisters were her ancestors,
but
but I don't know if it's really ever completely said if like, you know, she's the last. I know there's very few. There has to be very few Night Sisters left. There's actually the video game Jedi Fallen Order. One of the planets that you go to is Dathomir, which is where the Night Sisters are from. And when you go there, there's like only one Night Sister that's there, and she admits she's like, basically, I'm like one of the last or something like that. So I could see where they're trying to, you know, maybe she's one of the final ones.
But I mean, they're obviously dark side users, in which case she should have some powers. And that's what. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because she's sitting there in those handcuffs, and it just feels like, why don't you just magic yourself out?
I
that's
totally get that.
That's just nitpicky kind of stuff. But to be fair, I'm not clear on her power set. You know, I mean,
I like that they introduced
in Mandalorian, right? So
I like that they introduce Night Sister magic into this series, and I'll tell you why. Because it shows a different side of the Force. That the Force isn't just merely about pushing and pulling things with your mind. there's a lot more to this. This use of the force presents itself as magic, and why I think that's so important is in establishing what Sabine may have in terms of force ability. That it may not look like everybody else that we've seen, but she may still have something there, something different. And we get that in this episode. I think she starts sensing a lot of things. She kind of when she walks into a room or when she's sleeping, she gets a lot of like these visions that we, the audience, don't see, but we know she's experiencing.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a little bit of the force.
That's true. Yeah.
But in showing, I feel like introducing Night Sister magic is a way of also kind of saying, hey, the force can look very different than what you thought it could.
Which is going to be super important for when they go to the other galaxy, because that's without I definitely can't even say that I could spoil something if I wanted to. Everything that I've heard is speculation. I won't even go into detail, like heavy detail, but there is rumors that the force is used very differently in the other galaxy where Thrawn and Ezra have been.
I heard something else.
Okay. So you guys are you guys dipping your toes in spoilers a little bit? I haven't a little bit. Like, I know Reddit, and I'm not even gonna hide it. This is what is Reddit, and there's spots where there's people out there.
No, wait, John, do you remember the thing I told you about Ezra that I found out a while back? I won't like repeat it at the moment, I guess, but because you were like, dude, you like Ezra's already my favorite character. You just made him even more my favorite character.
No, I don't remember this.
Shit. It's more so trying to explain. I guess it's not really again huge spoiler of anything, but again, he doesn't have his lightsaber over there, and from what I understand, they're making it seem like instead of him just like recreating a lightsaber, that he more so has like using the force, but in like a kung fu-ish way or something like that, like a martial arts way, I should say,
like Yoda, or how Yoda should have been, right, without a lightsaber.
I guess, yeah, something along those lines.
Well, Ezra was always a little bit different, right? Where he had the lightsaber that was also a gun. I mean, he was always a little bit.
That was such a dope lightsaber.
Yeah, people were split on that. They loved it or they hated it.
They could eat shit. That thing was awesome.
Listen, I wanted to say something real quick because I know Jace like loves these like crazy theories. This is what I heard, my guy. What if this isn't just merely a pathway to another galaxy, but it's some world between world stuff, and this galaxy is the same galaxy, but like multiversal.
I mean,
bro. Right.
We're at such a fun point and an early point in the show now where like it could go that way. I so hope it does. You tend to come up with a lot of good ideas. So
holy shish.
Am I making sense with the little I said?
Okay, so I definitely 1,000,000,000% think that the world between worlds will be present within the show at some point in time.
I mean, it's a Dave Filoni thing, right? I mean, it was was introduced in Rebels, so yeah, and we're very much connected.
However, because I've heard so damn much that seems to point towards signs of like what's been happening in the other universe, I don't know if it would make sense that it would all of a sudden then be like a mirrored version of the same universe. Look, if it is, I think that's a bit abstract. I don't think Star Wars would go down that road, to be honest with you. That's a bit more like Marvel, DC stuff. Like, I just feel like it's not as fitting of a characteristic to like Star Wars as a whole. If they did, I guess I'd be down for the ride and see where it goes. Because then what is it like you're saying? Almost like a multiversal concept where like we'd see like another Ahsoka and like
maybe we would see another Ahsoka, but I don't know if we would. But it's more of that because of the interaction between maybe Thrawn and Ezra in the world between worlds. Remember what Ahsoka warned Ezra about: you can't pull Kanan out because the results could be catastrophic. Well, what about something like that happened during their exile, and this galaxy is that catastrophe?
Oh, bro. Well, then all I could hope is this: that they retcon the fucking sequels and then make it so that
Pretty
the
much where this
race
conversation is going.
and make it so that hey, the race stuff still happened. It's over
But
here.
it's in another galaxy.
It's just in another. It's another galaxy. It's just over there doing its
You
own
guys
thing.
just want to
And-
have
and-
your cake and eat your
And
cake
check it
and
out.
not
Check
have your
out the
cake
way
and
it was supposed to go.
all of the cake related
With Luke
analogies.
recreating
The Jedi Order with this little.
We're
with this
never
little
getting
social-
that.
We're never getting that. All
No,
these
I don't think
theories
Disney-
are
I
too.
think Disney's gonna hold their ground on that and the sequel trilogy, whether
I
you
agree.
like it or not, is just it's set in carbonite or stone.
Well,
or
then
whatever
don't build up my hopes with that theory like that.
that- Stop it, John. Stop cock teasing. All right, moving on to episode 2, and feel free to double back to episode 1 if you guys have anything to say on it. Part 2, we're doing parts now. We're not doing like chapters and stuff. I like the little
Mhm.
differences and stuff. Part 2, Toil and Trouble. This one was also written by Dave Filoni and directed by Steph Green. So of course we open with Sabine, and she's all better. Thank you, Star Wars. But let's see. Sabine Wren recovers and informs Ahsoka of her findings, and also traces the droids that attacked her to Elsbeth's factories on Corellia. We get to see Corellia again. That was actually pretty cool, and it's cleaned up. They've cleaned up Corellia. I like that. Seeking the star map, Ahsoka and Syndulla travel to the Corellian shipyards in time to see a massive hyperdrive built for Elsbeth's ship to travel to Thrawn's location in Peridia, a neighboring galaxy. The transport carrying the hyperdrive escapes, but not before Chopper attaches a little tracking device. After arresting the shipyard workers as spies for the Empire, Ahsoka is contacted by Ren, who's ready to become her Padawan again and find Bridger. This description is leaving out a key scene, though, where she has a really nice conversation with the droid that sort of pushes her in that direction.
Mhm.
And just to finish off, the episode finishes off with Elsbeth is contacted by Skull, Hati, and Marek, who obtained a hyperdrive so they can finish building her ship, the Eye of Sion, and find Grand Admiral Thrawn. So I liked episode 2 a lot more than episode 1. We leave off in a much better place. I'm pumped for episode 3 by the time this one. I'm sorry, I was pumped for episode 3 by the time this one wrapped up. Who wants to start first with their thoughts on this one, on episode 2?
This episode kind of made me realize this feels like big Star Wars. This doesn't feel like Adventure of the Week Star Wars, like maybe Mandalorian season 3 felt for some people, and especially Boba Fett felt for everyone who watched that show. This feels like big Star Wars. What happens here is going to move the lore and the universe forward in such a way that you cannot miss this show if you want to continue Star Wars.
Yeah, agreed. It also feels more focused and mapped out. No pun intended, because I know we're dealing with maps and shit in this episode. Jace, your thoughts on episode 2?
So it is very much. I echo the sentiment a lot because it's a very focused show. It definitely, and I love that it doesn't seem to be following almost the. I mean, even as much as I like Mandalorian season 2, it almost had like the too many side quests, I guess, here and there, and they were enjoyable side quests. So that's all that you could ask for. But they're not always necessary. You don't want to feel like there's filler, and it doesn't appear that this is the case. Everything seems to have a purpose for being there. I do think that once again, the pacing does create issues. I don't think it's something that, again, is like too much of a detriment to the point where I want to like complain overtly about it, but it's at least worth mentioning. And I'm just kind of curious if that's going to be a consistent thing throughout the rest of the series. But no, I like what it sets up. I like everything it sets up. I think one of the few things with the Inquisitor that they have, like Anthony, when you were reading the description and mentioned the name, I'd only heard it once before, and I don't think they say it at all in the show, if I'm not mistaken.
We don't always get names in Star Wars, right? Sometimes.
Yeah. Morgan Elsbeth says it once.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and it's one of those where
I don't remember how you pronounce it. If it's is it Maroc? I don't know.
No. But that's the point. Is it's not like it's a huge deal because again, you figure out who people are over time and kind of appreciate that or whatever. But yeah, that was like almost like a bit abrupt and sudden. I'm curious, is there like a history there? Like, does Ahsoka know this character? Also, I could have sworn that character has like, I saw it advertises with like a golden mask, so maybe I'm mixing it up with a different character. But
I mean, maybe not because sometimes they go in and like fix things up or change things anyway. Like, right, there's lots of cases of trailers being a little different and teasers being a little different. I will say one thing about this episode. I generally agree with both of you guys. I like the as a side note, I like the fleshing out of the post Return of the Jedi, New Republic era. That we're seeing how all of this works. We got a little bit of that in Mandalorian, and we're getting a little bit more of it here. I like that they're getting into that stuff. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I wondered, boy, what happens after Return of the Jedi? So sure, I wanted to see continued adventures of Han, Luke, and Leia, and we're not going to quite get that. But I like seeing that we're seeing this universe and how they're rebuilding and how there are still people loyal to the Empire, or at least for the right money, they'll go any which way possible. So I like seeing that aspect of it. I like seeing that there's some corruption, and there was some good fleshing out in this episode. Like, what are you guys' thoughts on that aspect of this? Like, where like we have because we get the whole bit where oh geez, I forget the guy's name, but he turns out
too many names.
Yeah, it's a lot of names, and anyway he gets arrested at the end. But I like that they fleshed out all of this stuff. I mean, were you guys sort of indifferent on that aspect of it? Just curious.
No, I thought that was cool. I thought like the whole, trying to play it off as though like, nah, we're not Imperials anymore. Nobody cares about the Empire like that. Only for, no, everyone for the Empire.
I thought it was good universe building.
It was because you need to do that stuff. Obviously, they've done that very heavily in The Mandalorian. That's all that we got of that. The Book of Boba Fett didn't really explore that too much because it was very centered in on what was happening, with Boba Fett specifically, which of course makes sense. And then Obi-Wan, of course, could not explore that because that was taking place at a time when the Empire was still the Empire. So it's nice to definitely see that they're trying to build up this whole Imperial remnant type of established thing. So this way, when Thrawn comes back, because it's inevitable, it makes sense. Like, oh, we've been giving hints and signs that people are still down for the Empire, as opposed to if this was never mentioned and then he did come back and then everyone was just like, yeah, the Empire rises again. Be like, where is this coming from? I thought everyone was done with that stuff. So I did appreciate that. And it was just nice to see another, just Rebels team up. I'm curious if that's going to be the same thing for the rest of the show. They almost left it off in a way where it seems like we might not see Hera for a bit. So I don't know if that's like all she's going to be in the show or if it really comes back. True. So I hope it continues to be very Rebels-esque. Like I said, man, if they're not going to give us more Chopper, I'm going to be sad.
I know, yeah, dude.
He's such a fan favorite. I hope they don't go that way.
Yeah, my wife was like, I understand him.
Yeah. He's voiced by Dave Filoni.
Yep. I know that. But it was great seeing him. Yeah, dude, it's so necessary to have these themes of the Imperial remnant.
Yeah,
and all that embodies. Again,
we know what's coming, so I think it's good to sort of establish where the universe is at this point. I mean, sometimes people may get a little rough on in their heads, like, wait, because Star Wars does jump around a bit in timelines and stuff like that. So I think it could get a little confusing for me too. And I walk around confused anyway, so that's not saying too much.
Speaking of this whole Imperial remnant thing and it being built up a little bit in another show and now in this, kind of makes me disappointed because the spoiler alert for Mandalorian season 3 here. But if Gideon did seemingly die and he is actually dead, man, that's really disappointing because I was dying to see an interaction between him and Thrawn.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was really hoping that, gosh, even though I love Gideon like a lot, I was really hoping that Thrawn was going to come by and just like have a few lines to just like shut him the hell up and put him in his place.
Yeah.
So you would just be able to tell right away, like, damn, Thrawn ain't.
I was gonna say, speaking of which, that's one thing I'll credit this show for, because I was critical of Mandalorian. Like the villain, we haven't seen Thrawn yet, and I'm sort of glad we haven't. We're building toward him, good, but like at least we are very clearly building toward him. We already have villains in place. Whereas I felt like season 3 of Mandalorian, like it just again side quests
out of nowhere.
We waffled around until we got to Gideon, and here like we know Thrawn is coming. We've seen him in the trailers and stuff, but like. when do you guys think? I mean, I guess I don't want to jump ahead into like our predictions and stuff, but like I love that aspect of it. That again, the show feels focused.
I don't think we're gonna see Thrawn too much in this series.
See,
No, I don't think so. I think Thrawn is the bigger player, and we're definitely seeing him.
Yeah,
he's in the trailers, but I really don't think I think it's gonna be Balin and Shin. Like those are the two mains that they want to kind of focus on, and Thrawn will be there, and we will have our gushing over Thrawn. But Thrawn is not gonna have that much of a presence in this series, the same way that maybe Gideon did in the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, especially season 2. Just because I feel that Thrawn is that big player, that Thanos level threat for Star Wars, and I feel like maybe they'll just like save him for like, you know, bits and pieces here and there until that Dave Filoni movie that obviously all this is building up to. I also see it that up until Ahsoka, I almost see it as the New Hope section of this new Star Wars, and now with Ahsoka, this is the beginning of the Empire Strikes Back section of Star Wars, and that Dave Filoni movie might be the Return of the Jedi section of this Star Wars.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, it's like when it comes to Filoni, for the most part, I'm pretty confident with him, man. Like as long as he's doing his thing, Jon Favreau too. I mean, whatever. I know it hasn't been a perfect run, but overall, I mean, as long as these guys are in charge, I'm pretty confident and hyped, you know, for the future.
I blame almost all and any imperfections on outside interference.
Kathleen Kennedy, but
I gotta say real quick, I'm surprised. Though I definitely see the validity and the logic there. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure I personally would agree. I mean, it's speculation. I have nothing to go off of here, but I'd be really shocked if we don't get a decent, heavy-handed amount of Thrawn once he does show up. I mean, to be fair, maybe he doesn't show up until like the second half of the season. But at the same time, I feel like once he's going to be there, he's going to be there. Because here's the thing, even though, like, yeah, I agree. I think he's very much the new replacement of the Emperor, a.k.a. like the Thanos of the Star Wars universe now. But I don't think that they're trying to, like, lightly season us with it. I think it's more so like Thrawn's here, and it's not like he's going to just start screwing shit up all like right away as far as like messing regaining the Empire's strength and immediately just taking everything by force. But I think you're really gonna feel his presence.
We feel it now, and without him,
that's
my
but
only...
I guess I mean like more literally, as far as, you know, like him actually being visible to us now and hearing.
What would you guys consider decent amount? And yeah, he wasn't really here enough. Like one episode, one scene in one episode.
Like,
he's
for
in
me, like
episodes,
one, like he shows up in like the season or series. I guess we could say season finale. I'm assuming we're gonna have more Ahsoka seasons. I hope so.
Maybe.
But yeah, if they give him only like 1 episode or 2 episodes, how many episodes are we getting in total? Are we getting 8? I think.
I'm pretty sure it's
question.
8.
Okay,
No,
well, let's say for the sake of argument, we're getting 8. Then yeah, I'd like to see him in like at least half of those. Especially considering that, like, you know, I feel like this second episode left us in a place where we're headed in that direction very, very, you know, very, very strongly.
It is 8.
It is 8. Thank you very much, man.
I don't think. I'll be real disappointed if it's only the finale, or even if it's only like the last 2 episodes. I'm going to think that that's really kind of a missed opportunity on their end. Because here's the thing, it's like they don't have the level of projects coming out like Marvel does. Like the reason that Marvel could sprinkle Thanos in like the way they did was because they had 3 movies a year coming out at that time. You know what I mean? Like they could just tease it whenever they felt like it, and they knew they were going to have another opportunity not too long from then. Star Wars ain't like that. Like, we don't even know what the hell's coming out next after Ahsoka for sure, as far as like show wise goes, you know,
maybe Skeleton Crew.
I
think it's delayed or whatever.
Even when they announce it, I take it with a grain of salt because they can announce anything, I know, unfortunately, and we don't know what's going to happen. We still don't know. We have a rough idea of what they hopefully plan to maybe happen.
The Acolyte is definitely like on the table. I from what I understand, that might be next. But here's the thing. Let's just say hypothetically that is next. That's not a place that you can put Thrawn in. That's in a completely different time period. So That's why I kind of stand by. I think they understand what they have to do here, and what they have to do is like you have to make the audience understand that Thrawn is essentially the new Emperor, more or less. And if you can't showcase that by having him in there at least a decent amount, again, missed opportunity. And I think they know across the board with this show, like you cannot have this fly as a missed opportunity, otherwise people are going to start to really give up on Star Wars.
Yeah.
My only feeling is that they're putting so much spotlight on Elsbeth, on Balin, on Shin, on Marok, or however you pronounce that person's name, and like then Thrawn after that.
Yeah,
I mean,
because Thrawn, I still think Thrawn could just
might come in
essentially
and wipe
lead.
everybody out as far as we.
I think he's just going to lead the charge. I think he's just going to be calling the shots. I think you're still going to see plenty of.
It's because of that why I don't think we're gonna see a lot of him, because he will take the charge and call the shots, and then we'll see the repercussions of all that within these other characters mostly. That's what I think. Okay. At least I hope I'm wrong. I love Thrawn.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
He's there. He's in our little like background because I love that character so much. But it's going to be a lot of villains in this season.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, this is where
I think they're balancing it though pretty well.
Yeah, so far.
This is also where we kind of go back to just like very quickly of like, are Balin and Shin even actually villains though? I think Shin, you could argue, is maybe more of like villainess. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? But I think that it's like they also seem to just have their own agenda. In the sense of they of course they're like playing their role because they just want, what does Balin say when Thrawn comes? We'll have power like you've never dreamt or imagined or whatever the case is. So they're just in it for themselves, like to an extent. But I don't think it would be like, oh, now there's like an influx of villains. Like there's too many villains. I mean, I guess in a way, can't you say that about a lot of times within Star Wars? Like, sure, there was the Emperor, and then like there's maybe in the Clone Wars, let's say like Count Dooku, but then there was General Grievous, and you know what I mean? There was Newt Gunray and Admiral Trench, and there was a whole bunch of, there was like a slew of people. You kind of always have that. You always have a long list and roster of good guys as well as roster of bad guys. They just kind of rank as far as it goes.
They just never took the center stage. Like we can't say Newt Gunray took center stage against a Maul or something. But I feel like all of these people are taking center stage, even though we don't even know how to pronounce Marok. I feel like he's still taking center stage.
I always have a nerdy hope that because the Knight's sister is worked into a storyline, just bring back Darth Maul one more time. Why not?
Brother,
I wanted to point out one unit. Just one more time. Fuck it. Dang, maybe
we saw him die.
Eric mentioned maybe I need to rewatch these episodes if you guys are saying episode 2 was better. So are we all in agreement that like episode 2 was the better of the from both episodes?
I'm not in agreement or disagreement. I need like another day to think about it. Okay, I don't know.
And a rewatch maybe, right?
Here's the weakest aspect for me. It ultimately led to a story that pushed the narrative forward, but I really didn't like that middle section of them in Corellia that much until, everything pops off for the Empire and everything after that. Right, that was really cool. But like before that, like it kind of felt Adventure of the Week-ish, and I was scared for a second that this is what it was going to be, another droid factory and Christopher Lloyd. Oh Jesus, no! But it wasn't that. It ultimately wasn't that.
Didn't Chopper at least save it for you a little bit?
Oh, bro, come on! Chopper saves anything for me, brother. I love Chopper.
Oh, jeez.
No, but I'm on a similar page where it's kind of in the middle.
Tied or
they're tied-ish. I think that's the thing is when they came out together, and especially if you watch them together, which I did, I watched them back to back. You know what I mean? It's almost like it just kind of like blends into one episode. So I understand it's not, but it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of, I guess, like rank which one truly is the superior episode of the two. I just saw it as one elongated episode / bit of the story.
Let's see. Eric is saying I tend to almost always like the first episode most. For most Disney Plus shows lately, I don't know. I get tired after that or something. Okay, I hear.
What?
I'll say this: I was a big fan of Andor, but if I rewatch Andor, I'm gonna probably be skipping the first 2 or 3 episodes.
I feel insane, Anthony, when you say that, because you and the majority of the world love Andor and I don't.
That's okay. Dude, that's what makes discussion even better. Plus, we're not real. I know I bullshitted earlier about us killing each other. It's civil dialogue. Is civil discourse is more what we want here. So I don't care that you hate Andor. I mean, I think
you care a little bit.
I care a little.
You care
bit.
a little bit
because at least the show, like I mean, at least toward the second half, it just gets so good. Did you finish the series? Just curious, or you were like, fuck this?
Yeah, the second,
it's okay.
The second, no, I haven't finished it yet.
Okay, all right.
I haven't finished it yet. It's not fair. Yeah, it's not fair on my end.
You could hit a YouTube video on the highlights of Andor or something like that.
Gotcha.
I mean, you've seen Rogue One, so you know how it ends.
I love Rogue One.
All right, let's go into, I guess, just a final nerdiest of nerd.
Yo, 100. Listen, Morocco. Guys, or Merrick. Jesus, what is that person's name? There is a reason that they have not showed that character talking.
Mm-hmm.
We always see Inquisitors talking, and if they're not talking, it's because they're super side characters, like in Rebels. I think this is going to be a big reveal. When that mask comes off, it's going to be a big reveal for the fans.
I hope so. I don't think so. I hope so. Hey, Andor did that so many times where I kept thinking, "Oh, it's gonna be this. Oh, it's gonna be that," and I feel like
it wasn't.
And it wasn't. It was just.
It'll be cool if it's not, and it's like another Boba Fett, original Boba Fett, where it's like a cool new character. That would be cool.
Once again,
I really think it might be a reveal, and that's why we haven't heard that character talk. There are some theories. There are 2 theories. The first theory, which is the one that I like a little bit more than the others, is that it's Barriss Offee.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
I love it.
Are you Googling over there, Jace? Are you Googling things too? Because looking into what John was saying?
Yeah, no, I couldn't help it because I actually wanted to start and look up. I was like, all right, let me look up in the I'm on IMDb, and I was checking like the cast, like the top cast of the episodes, and dude, they're not listed at all. Like in the like it doesn't even say Inquisitor or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the person in the costume is a stunt person.
Okay, but for our purposes, it could still be a pretty cool reveal.
Absolutely, it could be Barriss Offee.
They it in there really well. If that's
that'd be a pretty built Barriss Offee. I ain't gonna lie. I mean,
it could be.
You know.
And this is
almost like when it's like Ghostface, Ghostface looking like some like 6'5" buff dude, but then it's like some teenage girl, and she's like, I need it, and I would have gotten away with it too.
Spoilers for Scream 6, how Quinn was able to take out that really big buff black guy.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Even going back to Friday the 13th, we had Jason's mom lifting up 300-pound dudes and throwing them around and whatever. Let's not go into horror too much, but
another stream.
Hey, Eric agrees with me. Okay, Andor, I think, got better actually as it went along. I think a lot of people tend to feel that way. I don't know if there's anybody who just loved Andor straight on through. But if there is, then, hey, God bless them. Guys, getting onto the nerdy stuff real quick. Oh, John, first, do your thing.
For any casual fans that may be watching, right? Barriss Offee was Ahsoka Tano's really close friend during the Clone Wars, who was aligned with her in that something's going on with the Jedi Order that I'm not with, I don't like. Except Barriss Offee took it a step further and bombed the Jedi Temple and tapped into the dark side, and obviously found to be guilty, and that was the last we ever saw and heard of her.
Yeah. This is one of the things I love about Star Wars is we have some fun little story threads just that may linger for, years potentially, that allows us to speculate, and then they could pick it up like later on. I mean, hell, even when Rebels kickstarted, we didn't know what had become of Ahsoka necessarily until she showed up as Fulcrum, if I remember correctly, right? I love that Star Wars does that. I love that there's so much kind of flexibility in the storytelling, or the assisted storytelling, should I say.
Guys, there is a prevailing theory about Marok, though, that I don't like at all, but it is prevailing. Guys, listen, I am only saying this because everybody has been saying this, and I'm hating it, that it's Ezra. that it's Ezra.
So
I hate that.
That's on the face of
I
it,
can't
that
even-
sounds
But it's
terrible.
prevailing over even Barris Offee. What?
I was gonna.
Man,
I
no.
mean, I was gonna ask you guys earlier. Do you think it's possible, Ezra, that when we meet him again, I feel
Because
like
he's
we're
tapped
all
into the dark
safely
side before.
assuming Ezra's gonna sort of maybe be the hero and come in, and I don't know, down the line join up with Luke. I don't know, but we're all assuming he's gonna be the good guy. Is it possible he goes dark?
I just don't even see the logic in that. Number one is he's in the far galaxy, as far as with Thrawn. So it's like, okay, how did he get back?
Yeah.
And then also I just wonder, like, again, just where's the logic behind it to back that theory? Usually, here's the thing: when theories, what makes them so fun is when it seems so believable, right? When you can kind of latch onto it and be like, damn, I could see that happening. I don't see why that would be a thing. Like, even with the mentioning of, hey, you know what, he was like Maul's apprentice for a little while in Rebels, so he's tapped into that dark side a little bit before, and it's like, okay, but to be like full-blown Inquisitor outfit with a double-sided, like, helicopter blade lightsaber, and again, for like just what overall endgame purpose? Even if it would be like, oh well, but it's going to be revealed it's Ezra, you think he's bad, but it was actually he was doing something for the good guys. Even then, it's like, doing what?
They did that in the EU with Luke, where he went a little dark, and that never sat right with me that they did that with Luke. Even despite how much people praise the extended universe, they had a bit of a storyline, right, where he joined with Palpatine. Never sat right with me, and I don't know. And again, it feels wrong with Ezra.
It just for what? And then is like the whole point that it's like, oh yeah, it's going to be revealed that he's evil, and like now he's bringing back the Sith or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I would not. Brother.
I don't buy it either. I mean, it's entertaining for the sake of discussion. You know what I mean? But nothing more than that. I can't see that as a plausible theory.
John, where did you read that? Don't go to that place,
bro. I've read it everywhere. Like Screen Rants talked about it, and I've listened to so many like people talk and review Ahsoka, like long podcast episodes of the first 2 episodes, and like they're mentioning it too. And I'm like, where is this coming from?
Do you think it's just sort of like nerd chatter, or do you think that there's something to it?
I hope. I hope.
Let's leave things.
I can't see anything valid there.
I would like to touch a little bit on please. Sabine Wren and being a Padawan. How do you, Anthony? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, I kind of like it. It goes back to what you said earlier about, because I felt the same vibe of Phantom. I got Phantom Menace vibes in the opening of this episode. So we have sort of that dynamic going on with Baylan and his apprentice, and then we have Ahsoka and Sabine. I feel like it all kind of fits and parallels and lines up nice. We have Master and Apprentice. I don't mind it. I'm a little fuzzy on Rebels because I know she's a Mandalorian. Did we start to get into that? I'm not the biggest fan of mixing my Jedi stuff with my Mandalorian stuff. It's like everybody's like, oh, you could mix your peanut butter with your chocolate, you get an awesome Reese's Pieces. It's like, yeah, but Jedi are awesome because they're Jedi, and Mandalorian are awesome because they're Mandalorian. Why
Anthony, in the Star Wars universe, you would be racist.
Oh well. I mean, I've already canceled myself like 3 times in this stream, so why not go for a 4th? What was your question? Or what did I think of Sabine as the
so it was more about
I like it. I'm actually cool with it.
What's a Padawan then? Is she force sensitive? Is she not force sensitive? Is it just lightsaber training?
I feel like the verdict is a bit out on that. We need a little more backstory to find out how did they slip into that, and then what went wrong, and then like maybe ask that a question again in a few streams when we see where this all goes, and if we get to see how it all kind of started. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No? No, yeah.
Jace?
Perfect sense, brother.
I think that it's one of those. It's weird because it's weird. I'm not against it, but I also feel like one of the cool things about the show The Mandalorian is that it's seemingly pointing a lot of signs towards the next Mandalorian Jedi becoming existent. You know, they refer even to like Tar Vizsla existing back in the day. He created the Darksaber, how legendary that is and everything. And it was like, oh, well, the only next person to wield it would be like another force sensitive Mandalorian. And a lot of people are like, oh, okay, so is Din Djarin going to become force sensitive? Or are we saying that Grogu, being force sensitive clearly, is going to grow up to take on the Mandalorian ways and then be a Mandalorian Jedi and kind of be the next Tar Vizsla? It's like, okay, so what is Sabine that now all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Is she just kind of like, is she just jumping the gun? Not jumping the gun, but like almost like they're shoehorning her into like, no, forget Din and Grogu. Sabine, my guy, she's the Mandalorian Jedi. And again, it's really cool. I like that aspect of it. I like that she's using Ezra's saber.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, she has Ezra's saber. Yeah, that's a good little addition.
I kind of think of it.
John, you're not a fan of it, I guess, right?
I'm kind of iffy too. I want them to make sense of it within the next couple of episodes, that maybe she does have some aptitude to the Force, even if it's tiny. I go to this, guys. The term is called Force sensitivity, and sensitivity, right, can go from low to high. That's what sensitivity means, right? But every time we say Force sensitive, we say somebody that has a Force. Somebody has a Force. But then, if what Obi-Wan says in A New Hope is true, that the Force is something that flows through all living things, well then, are they going to change the lore to make it that everyone is capable of harnessing the Force, but you need to be trained in such a way? Is that what they're trying to get at? Because I really don't see anything from Sabine.
Isn't that already a little implied that like everybody?
No, I don't.
No, I don't know.
Only
It's
because
already implied that everybody has the potential, but they're simply not trained, or they're not.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, no, I mean, to the point where they're okay. So again, referring to like a video game here, but from the Jedi Fallen Order game, one of the things that you are searching for and that end up achieving is you obtain a list of names of children throughout the galaxy that are Force sensitive.
Yeah.
And basically the purpose of that is to go and try and rebuild the Jedi Order. Well, I guess if you look at it in that sense, why would there be a list of specific names if literally anybody alive in the galaxy had the potential to go ahead and just be Force sensitive? So I think that maybe everyone has like is somewhere on the spectrum, if you will. But I think that like there's some people that clearly are on such a level of that spectrum where it's like, hey, look, like this, you're a Jedi, dude. Like it's just, it's almost like you're a wizard, Harry, right? Like not everybody can work this like you can. But I don't think it's like an applicable to every living being, even if the Force does flow through every living being. But maybe that's where we go back to, John, what you were saying earlier about like Sabine using the Force, but differently, because maybe it just happens to be different for different people. I don't know if that means she's going to do some Night Sister magic stuff, but maybe she just happens to, maybe it's like more of a communicatory
like
thing
a Leia,
her,
like
if that's
like
even
a
a
Leia
word.
Force.
I think
Leia used the Force very differently.
Eric brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Let's just check her midichlorian count, and that ends the whole speculation. That ends everything right there.
The what count?
Her midichlorian count right there. Yeah. Right.
The what count? I don't believe in that.
Oh, come on. You guys are the prequel fans around here. You guys should be all in on midichlorians. I'm the old timer who should be like, no, fuck you, midichlorians. So last final thoughts are just I want to end on a positive note. So first I'll start with what's something that I guess John, you could start, or Jace, whoever wants to start. What's something that like you absolutely hope you don't see in the series, like before we wrap?
Ezra as the Inquisitor. I don't want to see that whatsoever. I think I might tune out. I might end up tuning out.
Wow. That would be a deal breaker.
I think so, maybe. Like that's just crazy. That's like finding out Captain America was a Hydra agent the whole time.
I hate
you. At least there was like you found out that wasn't actually Captain America.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? But I know, right? Because it's like that type of like what?
Yeah.
Wait, so it's something that we really don't want to see?
Yeah, like something that like you hope that like something that's gonna break the show. Where you're like, why did Why did you do that? And if you can't think of anything, that's okay. We could.
No, I guess you know what? I would be really because it seems like sometimes this happens where there is a show, but then there is a character that seemingly plays second flute, if you will, but all of a sudden they end up being the lead of the show indirectly. For example, Reva was really like the main character of Obi-Wan, it feels like.
Or main antagonist. Aside
Yeah,
from
you know,
Vader,
like I feel like Fennec Shand, as cool as she is, but was almost like just as much of a lead, if not more, than Boba Fett sometimes in the Boba Fett show. And so I guess on that note, as much as I am enjoying seeing a live action Sabine and looking forward to seeing more of her, I don't want her to overshadow Ahsoka in her own show. You know, I want this to still be an Ahsoka show. I'm cool with seeing the evolution and development of Sabine. I like that, but you better show just as much development with Ahsoka as a master and in continuing that part forward and making this really centered around her.
I agree. And this is coming from someone who, like I said earlier, I'm digging Sabine at the moment a little bit more. I like Upside Dan's comment. Ken as the Inquisitor. Thank you, Dan. And then the last thing so we can leave on a positive note is what's something that you would guys like really hope to see, even if it's like nerd fan fiction-y, whatever, you know, Hayden Christensen goes off into the sunset with Ahsoka. I don't know. What's something you guys I mean, we know we're getting him, and I'm shocked that he hasn't come up yet. But and I'm, and on that note, are you guys glad that we didn't get like a Force Ghost or a thing, or we didn't open with a flashback? Would you have rather seen that? Just, I'm getting into like really into the nerd weeds now, but like, what are your thoughts on that one? Like,
well, if we're going into like hopes, like that stuff that I'm just gonna absolutely like fan out over and like potentially die for a moment before I come back to life,
make a mess.
No, I think probably the stuff
I ran out of socks.
I desperately want to see the most is I really hope on everything that there is a genuine Clone Wars flashback. I heard that there was casting for a different actress for Ahsoka only because to play the younger version. So and I was like, okay, that would be great. So dude, I want to see Hayden in the Clone Wars armor. And like not just I want to see like, dude, show us just like a brief little mini, like a flashback of a portion of a mission that they were doing. You know what I mean? Like instead of it just being some simple like little them in a room together training, you know what I mean? Where he's like giving a speech and they're just maybe doing show me like something about like them in action, and that would be phenomenal. I would be like so in love with that. And then also I guess as like a continuation of it, it'd be really nice if like to get more Anakin, it'd be cool if he showed up as like a Force ghost and was able to like communicate with present day Ahsoka as well. We've
only had his voice. That's it, right? Like an official
in the trailer.
It's possible, like it's possible in the comics or something he's showing up, or maybe the novels, and I'm not sure of it. But he was in the trailer as well. So okay, so we'll get. We know we're getting something. John,
the audio clearly is distinguishing like a flashback, though, in my opinion. If you listen to what he says, none of it sounds like it's something that he's like giving advice to her in the present day. It's very much like, he's speaking to her as if like, I'm here with you now as your master, trying to give you current day advice. Which is why I think that flashback is like a sure thing. I just hope they make the most of it. And then, but like I said, it'd be really, really cool to see something of, him talking to her, communicating in some way in present day as well.
It would be cool since we're getting this dynamic between Ahsoka and Sabine where they're clashing heads a lot. It would be cool if, and on a more personal level with Ahsoka, we see her kind of reject Anakin's Force Ghost because of everything, and her like I'm having trouble forgiving you. I'm having trouble seeing past what you became, and maybe I can't let go of this hurt because, and maybe that's why I'm reacting this way toward my Padawan. Yeah, that'll be a cool dynamic to see.
Yeah, because it's organic. It works into like, I mean, she's a character that obviously has baggage right now, and he's part of it, man. He definitely
and she won't be able to break through that stoic background until she comes to terms that like, I changed. Forgive me. I'm sorry. And maybe when she goes to her master and forgives her master, she herself can become the master that her Padawan needs.
Very nice. Very deep.
Very nice.
Oh, there's one other thing that I can't help but throw this in. I won't create a whole discussion point out of it, but one other thing that I'd love to see, if somebody feels like they don't want to watch the series of Rebels, there's a lot of stuff that you should, take away from it for sure. But one thing that you should look up is the fight between Ahsoka and Darth Vader in, gosh, I can't remember which season it is, so forgive me. But there's a specific fight that takes place on a specific planet. And there's a moment where when Ahsoka goes to the world between worlds in Rebels, you see, like, she sees that fight. I'd love to see that, a snippet of that in live action. Like, I love it when she goes, right? And if she just looks over and and like kind of has like a real, sour expression about it because she's seen it before. I mean, obviously lived through it, but like she's also seen it from the flip side again. I don't know. That'd be really cool to see that in live action.
Yes, absolutely.
This is the most nerding out we've done with Star Wars.
I love it.
I love it. I need a cigarette. All right. I think that's it. It's a wrap, guys. This was an awesome show. And first, I want to say thank you to the chat. Thank you to everybody who chimed in tonight. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody rewatching this. And stay tuned because we're going to discuss things. We'll see if we're going to come back for more and continue discussing Ahsoka. Guys, thank you very much. You guys were great. Loving it. Cinema Squad.
Appreciate you.
Rule of 3, son.
Thank you all for joining.